The Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr Speaker, the member that just resumed his seat for me personified the arrogance that has taken over the National Party going into this third term of government. He modestly said, people ask me all the time, why do you do so well? Why are you so popular? Why are you so well liked? How modest can he be? Mr Speaker, the government has stopped connecting with what ordinary New Zealanders really feel. One of the examples that I'm increasingly hearing frustration about from members of this House is the Minister's arrogance and dismissal of Select Committee procedures, where members of Select Committee, including National Party members, who are the chairs of the committee, hear about determinations of bills that are the property of the committee through a ministerial statement. How arrogant and disrespectful of the process and of members of a Select Committee, including members of their own party, is that? It really is just one of many indications of the increasing arrogance and dislocation of this. They must be a little bit despondent. They all went into the last election, and actually the election before, with their number one promise being to deliver a government budget surplus in the 2015 budget. And what did we see? Yet again, Bill English, failed leader, now failed finance minister, after 7 budgets, each failing to deliver a surplus. It wasn't just an expectation or a hope. It was the number one election promise in the 2011 campaign and the 2014 campaign, another broken promise. Judith Collins seems to be the only one who's reasonably excited about the future of the National Party. She recently led the caucus revolt. I've heard a number of people saying about the National Party caucus being revolting. But she led the revolt in relation to the health and safety reforms that Michael Woodhouse had promised, ruined his speech to a very large workplace safety conference. Michael Woodhouse had said, I'll be there and I'll be giving a speech with great promises and detail, and he had to turn up and say it's all been put on hold because of the revolt that Judith Collins had led. And then there was her less than subtle attack on Jerry Brownlee, where she launched an attack on Jerry Brownlee about the doors that he's required to have put in. I'm not sure if he thinks the doors will keep Judith Collins out of their caucus room or just out of our corridor, but it certainly was Jerry Brownlee's idea. That pales into insignificance, though, pales into insignificance beside what Murray McCulley has done. An $11 million bribe, and there can be no other word to describe it, paid to a private Saudi farm. I disagree with the politics of a number of members of the National Party, thank goodness, but I don't challenge the integrity of every single member, and I know that some of them will be squirming, because they, like many other New Zealanders, deeply value the integrity of our country, of our representatives, and of people who travel overseas to represent us. And our international reputation has been tarnished by Murray McCulley's bribe. He's off on overseas leave now. He's having a bit of a rest. And meanwhile, we've got Stephen Joyce causing bother for the National Party. He said he didn't know much about the sign that cost, $43,000 for a sign saying MB, Moby. It seems like quite a lot of money to pay for a sign. It certainly is. I'll leave that to your contribution, Mr Cunliffe, because that was a very good interjection. But Stephen Joyce today in Question Time was exposed at not only knowing details about the sign, but having personally chosen the colour. This minister is right into the details of his portfolio. It's just another example of the disconnect between ministers, their departments, and ordinary New Zealanders we've had. Poor old Maurice Williamson, how he sits in the House every day watching hapless ministers struggle through questions when he's still consigned to the backbench. And now he's been publicly rejected by the ACT Party, publicly rejected. The Northland by-election bribes with the bridges, and now we've got the Prime Minister distracting once again with boat people coming to New Zealand, a really Tony Abbott trick. Can I conclude, Mr Speaker, by saying, on an Australian point, a serious point that I want to make is that the first ever and only actually woman Premier of Victoria passed away this week, and I want to conclude with a tribute to the memory of Joan Kerner and all she did for women internationally and for education. Thank you.